Welcome back everyone to Hidden History Stories. In today's episode, we're diving into a night when nature itself declared war, the Great Storm of 1703, Britain's deadliest tempest. This is a story of courage, destruction, and how a single night of chaos reshaped a nation forever. Every disaster leaves a lesson behind, and this one shows how even the greatest naval power on Earth can be humbled by the wind and sea. But before we begin, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and share it with anyone who loves exploring the hidden corners of history. And tell me in the comments what's the most incredible natural disaster you've ever heard of. Your support keeps these stories alive. Now, let's begin. Imagine hurricane-force winds tearing across Britain, killing 80 people in a single night. This isn't fiction, it happened in 1703. Picture this: England's most powerful warships, vessels that had defeated the Spanish Armada, reduced to splinters in a matter of hours. Ancient oak trees, standing since Norman times, ripped from the earth like matchsticks. This is the story of Britain's deadliest storm. It's November 1703, and something sinister is brewing far out in the Atlantic. The winds have been restless for days, but nobody realizes what's coming. Admiral Sir Cloudesley Shovel stands on his flagship, watching the horizon with growing unease. Below him, over 700 Royal Navy vessels rest at anchor along England's southern coast. These are the ships that rule the seas, Britain's wooden walls against foreign invasion. But nature doesn't care about naval supremacy. The horses know something's wrong first. Across southern England, they're stamping nervously in their fields. Dogs refuse to leave their shelters. Even the birds have gone silent. Meanwhile, far out at sea, a monster storm system is gathering strength. Warm Atlantic waters are feeding it energy, and the jet stream is creating a perfect pathway straight toward England's heart. By midnight on November 26th, the first gusts rattle windows in Portsmouth. Naval officers check their instruments twice, not believing what they're seeing. Picture this moment: seasoned sailors who've weathered countless storms suddenly looking at each other with genuine fear. These men have faced enemy cannons without flinching, but this wind is different. The ship's anchors, massive iron hooks designed to hold fast in any weather, begin dragging across the harbour floors. The sound is horrifying, metal scraping against stone beneath tons of surging water. Now here's where it gets terrifying. The storm is still building. Dawn breaks on November 27th, but you can barely tell. The sky is black as night, and the wind is screaming at over 120 miles per hour. In London, ancient oak trees that witnessed the Norman conquest are torn from the ground. The sound is like thunder, but it never stops. Crash after crash echoes through the capital as centuries of history topples in minutes. Westminster Abbey, which has stood through civil wars and invasions, suddenly loses massive chunks of its roof. Stone blocks weighing tons are hurled through the air like pebbles. But the real shock comes at the Thames. The newly built Eddystone Lighthouse, considered an engineering marvel, simply vanishes. Gone. Its designer, Henry Winstanley, had been so confident in his creation that he'd specifically requested to be inside during a storm to prove its strength. His confidence was misplaced. Meanwhile, offshore, Britain's mighty fleet is being systematically destroyed. Admiral Shovel watches in horror as ship after ship breaks apart around him. The HMS Association, a massive 90-gun warship, snaps her anchor chains like cotton thread. Picture a vessel longer than a football pitch, weighing over 400 tons, being tossed onto the shore like driftwood. Here's the truly shocking part. These aren't enemy attacks. This is just wind and water. The HMS Stirling Castle, with 349 souls aboard, is driven onto the notorious Goodwin Sands. The crew has minutes to abandon ship before she's pounded to pieces. In the freezing November waters, only 70 men survive. Now, imagine this scene multiplied across dozens of ships. The English Channel becomes a graveyard of Britain's naval might. But the destruction isn't limited to the sea. Across southern England, entire communities are being erased. In Canterbury, the cathedral's bells are ringing by themselves, set in motion by the howling wind. It creates an eerie soundtrack to the apocalypse unfolding outside. Picture walking through London streets that morning. Lead sheets from church roofs are peeling off like paper, wrapping around trees miles away. Some of these sheets, weighing hundreds of pounds, are found embedded in building walls, driven there by pure wind force. The sound is indescribable. Survivors later said it was like standing inside a giant's roar that never ended. But here's where human courage shines through the chaos. In Deal, a small fishing boat is spotted fighting for survival just offshore. The crew is barely visible through the mountainous waves. Local fishermen, despite the obvious death sentence, launch a rescue boat. Picture this: men rowing into what looks like the end of the world to save strangers. The rescue itself becomes a battle for survival. Both boats nearly capsize multiple times, but somehow, impossibly, all hands make it to shore alive. Meanwhile, in London, a chimney sweep named Thomas Bowyer becomes an unlikely hero. As buildings collapse around Cheapside, Bowyer repeatedly ventures into dangerous structures to rescue trapped families. His small size and knowledge of London's buildings save dozens of lives. In one incredible rescue, he crawls through a collapsed roof to reach a family trapped in their attic, guiding them to safety just minutes before the entire structure collapses. Now here's where it gets almost unbelievable. The storm isn't just destroying things, it's moving them. Daniel Defoe, the future author of Robinson Crusoe, witnesses something impossible. An entire house picked up by the wind and deposited completely intact in a neighbor's garden. The family inside survives, emerging to find their home relocated but still standing. Windmills across the countryside simply disintegrate. These massive stone structures, built to withstand decades of wind, are turned to rubble in minutes. Millstones weighing several tons are found hundreds of yards away, as if tossed by giants. But the most shocking sight is in the New Forest. Picture this: 0 ancient oaks, trees that had weathered centuries of British history, all falling in a single night. The sound carries for miles. A constant thunderous roar as Britain's ancient woodlands are flattened. Back at sea, Admiral Chauvel is living through the Royal Navy's worst peacetime disaster. Ship after ship sends up distress signals, but there's nothing anyone can do. The HMS Northumberland, a powerful warship that had terrorized enemy fleets, is driven onto the Goodwin Sands with such violence that she simply breaks apart. Her crew of 253 has only minutes to abandon ship. Here's the heartbreaking reality. Many sailors don't die from drowning. They die from the cold. The November waters are so brutal that even strong swimmers succumb to hypothermia within minutes. Rescue boats find survivors clinging to wreckage, but watch helplessly as men die just as help arrives. The cold is that merciless. Meanwhile, London is experiencing something unprecedented. The wind is so powerful it's actually changing the city's geography. Picture the Thames, usually a calm river, whipped into waves that crash over the embankments. Boats are picked up and thrown onto the streets. The famous London Bridge, which has survived everything from Viking raids to the Great Fire, groans under the assault. In the wealthy districts, massive chimneys that have stood for centuries simply topple over. The crash of falling masonry is constant, like artillery fire that never stops. But here's what makes it even more terrifying. Nobody understands what's happening. There's no weather forecasting, no warning systems. To the people of 1703, this must seem like divine judgment. By dawn on November 28th, Britain is counting its dead. The final toll is staggering. Over 0 people killed in a single storm. To put this in perspective, that's more British lives lost than in many major battles. The Royal Navy's losses are catastrophic. 13 major warships destroyed, 500 sailors dead, and countless smaller vessels simply erased from existence. Some ships vanished so completely that only pieces of wreckage washing ashore days later reveal their fate. But the human cost goes beyond numbers. Entire fishing communities along the coast are wiped out. Families that have worked the same waters for generations are simply gone. When the winds finally die, Britain awakens to a transformed nation. The landscape looks like a battlefield, with fallen trees creating an almost impenetrable tangle across southern England. Picture the cleanup. Thousands of people working to clear roads blocked by centuries-old oaks. Entire forests have become jumbled masses of timber that take years to remove. Queen Anne, recognizing the disaster's magnitude, orders a national day of fasting and prayer. This isn't just about mourning, it's about acknowledging that nature has humbled the most powerful nation on earth. But here's where British resilience shows its true character. Instead of despair, the disaster sparks innovation. Daniel Defoe, commissioned by the government, produces the first comprehensive disaster study in history. He interviews hundreds of survivors, creating a detailed record that becomes the foundation for modern meteorological science. The Royal Navy doesn't just rebuild, it revolutionizes. New ship designs incorporate lessons learned from the storm: stronger hulls, better anchor systems, improved harbor designs. The disaster forces Britain to build back better. The Eddystone Lighthouse is rebuilt, stronger than before. This time it's designed not just to withstand storms, but to survive anything the Atlantic can throw at it. Now, here's the remarkable part. Within 5 years, most of the damage has been repaired. New churches rise where old ones fell, often incorporating design improvements learned from the storm's destruction. The Great Storm of 1703 becomes Britain's benchmark for natural disasters. Even today, when severe storms approach, meteorologists reference this tempest as the standard against which all others are measured. But the real legacy isn't in the destruction, it's in how Britain responded. A nation that could have been crippled instead emerged stronger, more prepared, and more unified. Picture that transformation. From one night of terror came centuries of improved safety, better science, and stronger communities. The storm that nearly broke Britain actually helped forge the nation's legendary resilience. This wasn't just weather. This was the night nature tested British resolve and found it unbreakable. The Great Storm of 1703 stands as proof that sometimes, from the greatest disasters come the most remarkable transformations. It remains, to this day, the most powerful storm ever recorded in British history, and the night an entire nation learned that survival isn't just about weathering the storm, but about rebuilding stronger than before. That was the story of the Great Storm of 1703, the night when Britain faced nature's deadliest wrath, and courage rose from the chaos. If you found this story fascinating, remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss more hidden history stories.